My friend, great leaders don't just preach, they plant seeds that outlive them. Their words may be carried on the wind, but the impact is carried in the hearts of those who hear them. Preaching alone can stir emotion in a moment, but planting seeds ensures transformation for a lifetime. When a leader speaks, it is not just sound, it is substance. It is nourishment for the soul. Their message digs into the soil of the human spirit, and over time, it grows into trees of wisdom, forests of faith, and gardens of possibility. Think about it. A sermon can inspire for a day, but a seed can inspire for generations. A seed does not look like much when it is placed in the ground. It may be small, overlooked, or dismissed, but inside that seed is potential, promise, and purpose. Leaders who plant seeds are not just speaking to the crowd in front of them. They are speaking to tomorrow, to the children yet unborn, to the communities yet unbuilt, to the dreams yet unimagined. That's what separates those who speak for applause from those who speak for impact. The ones who chase applause are satisfied with a moment. The ones who plant seeds are patient enough to wait for a harvest. They know that growth takes time. They know that change requires cultivation. They know that every seed does not sprout overnight, but when it does, it multiplies beyond imagination. When a true leader pours into others, they are not just transferring information. They are transferring identity. They are awakening something that was already within. They are stirring dormant dreams and reviving buried hope. Seeds are planted when a leader challenges someone to rise above fear. Seeds are planted when they remind you that your story is not over. Seeds are planted when they see in you what you cannot yet see in yourself. And long after that leader is gone, those seeds remain. They sprout in conversations, in choices, in moments of courage, when someone decides to keep going instead of giving up. They sprout when a young person who once sat in the back row now stands on the front lines of leadership. They sprout when a single word of encouragement becomes the foundation for a new life direction. Great leaders do not live for themselves. They live for the harvest they will never fully see. They understand that the true measure of their work is not the size of their platform, but the size of the impact that continues to grow long after their voice has faded. Influence is measured not by titles, but by the transformation in people's lives. Titles can be given in an instant, but true influence is earned over a lifetime. A title may open a door, but influence builds bridges. A title can demand respect for a moment, but influence commands respect for a generation. The power of influence is not in the position you hold. It is in the lives you touch and the hearts you change. There are countless people with impressive titles who leave no lasting mark. Their names may be on office doors, business cards, or even in history books. Yet when people remember them, there is no warmth, no gratitude, no legacy of growth. On the other hand, there are leaders who may never have held a grand position, but their influence has changed the trajectory of entire families, communities, and movements. Influence is not about being known by many. It is about being remembered deeply by those whose lives you transformed. When you influence someone, you shift their perspective. You awaken potential. You help them believe in themselves when doubt clouds their vision. Transformation is the fruit of influence. If someone walked away from you stronger, braver, wiser, or more determined than before, you have exercised true influence. That influence can echo far beyond what you may ever see, because every transformed life becomes a seed for the transformation of others. A title does not comfort a broken soul. A title cannot heal a wounded heart. A title cannot ignite purpose in someone who feels lost. Influence, however, can. Influence reaches beyond the surface and touches the invisible parts of a person's life. Influence whispers, "You can do it. You are more than this moment. You were born for greatness." The beauty of influence is that it cannot be limited by status or confined to a stage. A parent can influence a child. A teacher can influence a student. A friend can influence a friend. A single act of kindness, a word spoken at the right time, a belief in someone's hidden potential. These are acts of influence that ripple through eternity. Influence lives on in stories told, in values passed down, in courage imparted. The truest leaders know that titles fade, but transformation endures. They live not to collect accolades, but to collect testimonies of lives change. They understand that the real scoreboard of leadership is not in awards or honors, but in the invisible victories of those who walked away different because they crossed their path. True greatness is when your words echo in generations you'll never meet. It's easy to speak for recognition, applause, or the admiration of those within earshot, but true greatness is when your voice carries beyond the moment and becomes a guiding light for people you will never see. Words are more than sounds. They are seeds of destiny. They have the power to outlive the one who speaks them, shaping lives, shaping cultures, and shaping futures long after the speaker is gone. The greatest leaders and visionaries understood this truth. They did not merely speak to inspire crowds, they spoke to awaken humanity. Their words were not bound by time or geography. They spoke principles that resonated across decades, across borders, across struggles. Words of truth, faith, and courage never die. They simply travel through generations, finding new soil to root in, new hearts to awaken, new spirits to ignite. When a leader speaks greatness into existence, those words may not fully bloom in the lives of those listening at that moment, but generations later, someone who never saw their leadership is not about being in the spotlight. It's about lighting the way for others. The spotlight may shine on one person, but the true measure of leadership is not how bright it makes you look. It's how much it helps others see. A performer seeks the spotlight to be admired. A leader creates light so others can find their path. The difference is intention. One is about attention. The other is about transformation. When you chase the spotlight, you live for validation. You crave applause, recognition, and credit. But when you dedicate yourself to lighting the way for others, you live for impact. You become less concerned with who notices you and more concerned with who is growing because of you. A leader who lights the way is like a lantern in the night, not the loudest, not the most celebrated, but the most essential. Without them, others stumble. With them, others rise. True leaders understand that their role is not to be the destination, but to point toward it. They don't measure success by how many people follow them, but by how many people find their own way because of them. Sometimes that means giving up the stage so someone else can stand. Sometimes it means working in the shadows, investing in people who may never know the sacrifices you made to keep their path illuminated. History has shown us that the greatest leaders were not those who demanded the spotlight, but Those who became beacons of hope, they lit fires in others that continued to burn long after their own light faded. Leadership is not about saying, "Look at me." It's about saying, "Look at what you can become." It is about guiding people through uncertainty, encouraging them through fear, and empowering them to see beyond the darkness. The spotlight eventually fades, applause eventually quiets, and recognition eventually passes on to someone else. But when you light the way for others, that light spreads. One candle lights another, and suddenly what began with one leader becomes a blaze carried by many. That is leadership that lasts. That is leadership that multiplies. That is leadership that changes the world. The greatest gift a leader gives is belief in those who doubt themselves. Doubt is a heavy chain, and it doesn't just hold people back, it convinces them they don't even deserve to move forward. Many walk through life carrying brilliance within them, yet they shrink because the voice of insecurity whispers louder than the voice of possibility. A true leader recognizes this, and instead of condemning people for their fear, they lend them their belief until they can build their own. Belief is oxygen to a suffocating dream. When someone feels unseen or unworthy, a leader's belief can reignite the fire in their spirit. It says, "I see you. I hear you. I know you can." That belief doesn't just motivate, it liberates. It unlocks the chains of self-doubt and gives permission for potential to rise. And often, the very thing that keeps someone from giving up is not their own confidence, but the borrowed confidence of someone who refused to stop believing in them. The greatest leaders are not those who make others dependent on their approval, but those who awaken independence in others. They push people to see beyond excuses, beyond limitations, beyond the lies they've told themselves for years. They know belief is not just spoken, it's shown. It's in the patience they give, the opportunities they create, the encouragement they pour out, and the challenges they refuse to let someone run from. Think about the people who changed your life. They probably weren't the ones who gave you everything easily. They were the ones who stretched you, who reminded you that you had more in you, who refused to let you settle. They believed in you so strongly that it became uncomfortable not to believe in yourself. That is the power of leadership. A leader's belief becomes a mirror that reflects a better version of you, even when you can't see it. And eventually, if you walk long enough with that reflection, you start to recognize it as your own. You begin to step differently, speak differently, and dream differently. Not because the leader handed you strength, but because they helped you discover the strength that was already inside you. Legacy is built when vision collides with courage and consistency. Vision without courage is only imagination, and vision without consistency is only a dream that fades with time. But when all three come together, when a person dares to see what does not yet exist, when they summon the courage to act on it despite fear, and when they remain consistent long after excitement wears off, that's when a legacy is born. Vision is the spark. It's the ability to look beyond what is and see what could be. It's the picture of a future that demands to be created. Visionaries are often misunderstood because they see roads where others see walls, opportunities where others see obstacles. Yet vision alone is not enough, because it lives in the mind until courage brings it into reality. Courage is the force that takes vision off the page and into the world. It's what makes someone stand when everything around them says, sit. It's what pushes them to act when fear screams that they are not ready, not qualified, not enough. Every person with a vision will face moments of doubt, criticism, and resistance. Without courage, that vision dies in silence. With courage, it breathes, it grows, it begins to take form. But even courage is not enough without consistency. Inspiration can ignite action for a day, but consistency builds impact for a lifetime. The work repeated, the habits sustained, the persistence through seasons of failure and fatigue. That's what transforms vision into reality. Consistency is the bridge between intention and impact. When vision, courage, and consistency collide, the result is something that outlives the individual. That's legacy. It's the school that stands because one person refused to let education be denied. It's the business that thrives because someone kept showing up when the prophets said quit. It's the movement that continues long after the leader is gone, because the courage and consistency that fueled it became a blueprint for others to follow. Legacy is not built in a single moment of greatness. It is forged in the daily collision of vision, courage, and consistency. It is the proof that what begins in the heart of one can live on in the lives of many, carrying forward a story that time cannot erase. A true leader carries the weight of others' dreams until they learn to carry it themselves. Not everyone begins with the strength to hold their own vision. Many start with fragile hope, easily crushed by doubt, fear, or the voices that tell them they aren't enough. A leader steps in during those vulnerable moments, shouldering the load, believing on behalf of the dreamer, and protecting the spark until it grows strong enough to burn on its own. Carrying someone else's dream doesn't mean living it for them. It means creating the space, the encouragement, and the stability they need until they are ready to stand. It is the teacher who believes in the student, who thinks they are a failure. It is the mentor who holds a vision for the entrepreneur who can't yet see past rejection. It is the parent who nurtures the child's gift, even when the child doesn't yet understand its value. A leader recognizes that within every hesitant step lies the potential for greatness, and they are willing to bear the weight until confidence catches up with capability. This is not easy work. Dreams are heavy. They carry the weight of years of struggle, the burden of past mistakes, the pressure of uncertainty. To carry someone's dream means to endure their fears, to lift them when they stumble, and sometimes to believe for them when they cannot believe for themselves. That is what separates a leader from a bystander. A bystander watches people collapse under the weight of their potential. A leader steps in and says, I'll walk with you until you can walk alone. But the goal is never to carry that weight forever. The true measure of leadership is in the moment when the dreamer, once uncertain, finally says, I've got it now. And the leader steps back, proud not because they were the hero, but because they helped someone else discover the hero within themselves. That's the quiet victory of leadership. Watching someone who once leaned on your strength now stand tall in their own. The weight resolved, the weight of dreams is never light, but when carried by a leader's heart, it becomes a bridge from doubt to destiny. And when those once carried dreams begin to soar, they become proof that leadership was never about control. It was about empowerment, about lifting others until they realized they could fly. To honor a giant is not to worship the man, but to embrace the mission he lived for. True honor is never about building monuments made of stone. It's about building lives that reflect the values, vision, and purpose of the one we celebrate. Giants are remembered not because of the size of their names, but because of the size of the impact they leave behind. Their footsteps are not meant to be idolized. Idolized. They are meant to be followed, expanded, and carried forward. Worshiping a person limits their legacy to admiration. Embracing their mission multiplies it into action. The greatest leaders never intended to be the final stop. They intended to be the spark. They lit a fire, but that fire is not meant to remain in one place. It is meant to spread into new hands, new voices, new hearts willing to carry the torch. When we honor a giant, we do not simply tell their story. We live it. We breathe it. We let it shape the way we walk through the world. The danger of worship is that it keeps greatness at a distance, as if it belongs only to the chosen few. But the truth is that giants are human, with scars, struggles, and setbacks of their own. Their true greatness is not in perfection, but in perseverance. To embrace their mission is to say, if they could endure, so can I. If they could rise, so can I. If they could lead, so can I. A mission lives longer than a man. The words spoken, the battles fought, the sacrifices made, those do not end with a heartbeat. They continue in the lives of those bold enough to pick up where the giant left off. And every time we act in alignment with their vision, every time we embody the principles they stood for, we keep their influence alive. To honor a giant is to accept responsibility. It is to refuse to let their work die in memory when it was meant to live in movement. It is to look at the foundation they laid and say, now it is my turn to build higher, to reach further, to impact greater. That is true honor, not in kneeling at their shadow, but in rising to continue their light.